Are you close enough to hold it now?
Okay.
All right. So, now we're in the categories area, and you will see that
Make sure it's focused.
you will see
okay.
that the categories, the sidebars change to categories. You have all the categories listed, and you can, just like in the brands, select a category to edit. And you'll see right now I have it as Arc Flash and FR Clothing. It's position number 1 because it's the first alphabetically listed, and it's visible right now. Just like in brands, if you want to not have that being shown on your main page, you can untoggle that and make it not visible. And then you just click Edit. And then your users would not see this category or any of the subcategories on the main page until you make that visible again. But right now we have it visible. It's position 1. You'll see that there are 29 categories to choose from. So say some reason you want to change the order, you can always just pick whichever one you want changed and then just change that position to being the number that you want, and you will automatically see that in here. You don't have to go back to the main site. It'll show you. And you can edit that name by clicking Edit Category, edit the visible, edit category, position. All of those are under Edit Category button. And if you want to delete the category, you can hit that, but it will ask you before you delete. And if you're sure, you click OK, then that category and all the subcategories under it will be deleted. So that is why you need to be darn sure before you say OK, because then you'll lose all those pages.
Well, what happens if you delete something by accident? Then what do you have to do? Because that's guaranteed to happen at some point.
Well, so if you happen to delete a category, the category will be deleted. The subpages will basically exist in limbo because they don't have a category associated with them now. Because right now, as an example on our brands, we have 8 subcategory pages that we've made for brand number 1. So if I was to go in and in here delete brand 1 on the other page, not this one, but the other page, delete brand 1, then all of these would still say that they're pointing to brand ID 1, but there wouldn't be a brand ID 1 because you just deleted it. So they would still be there, but none of the users would be able to reach them and you wouldn't be seeing them. You would have to physically go into the database and create a new ID number 1 for them to be connected to. So, but since I'm designing this for you and for Mona and for everyone who works here to be able to kind of edit this easily, that is why I would say if you're wanting to delete a category name, first associate those subcategory pages to something else so that you don't lose them, or just change that category name. So if, say for some reason you don't want 3M, but you want all those subpages still, then you can just either make that 3M not visible, which would essentially get rid of it for the users because they won't see any of that anymore, but you would still have it in the database. Or you could rename it to whatever it is that you want those pages associated with. So rather than calling it 3M, you could call it 3MS or whatever the new name's going to be. So generally, you don't want to delete a category unless it's something that you really definitely don't want and you don't have subcategory pages under it. So that's just general advice, but I do have that option should you need it. So right now we're going to cancel because we know we want that. And you'll see that I did make a sample subcategory page under here. And it acts just like in the brands area. There's that subcategory page. And right now I'm working with the content. So right now I threw in some coding just to see how it works on the site when we look at it. And what I discovered was it will show these links, the Ahrefs, just fine. It's not showing the images right now just fine. So I'm working on that, and that's where I wanted to have kind of a discussion with you about image setup and how you normally have those on your subpages, because that requires a little bit more database coding so that they will display correctly. But just like in the brands page, when you go into that subcategory page, you have all the options to change the name, change the position, make visible or invisible, so on and so forth. So basically the categories and the brands work pretty darn the same. You can always add a new category, just like you could add a new brand. And say you create a new one and you call it test, and you want it to be in that last position, which you'll now see that there's 29 options. You can add it, and you'll see over here it has been added. And say you go, wait, no, sorry, I don't need that. I had a category for that already. You can go in, delete, and say, okay, and it'll be deleted. So that's basically what that setup is right now. And back end, this is what it looks like for me. I'm using SQL Pro, and I have the database on there. I'm going to put the database on the server once you give me the passwords. But right now I have a brands table, so it has just the brands names. Then under that I have this TBL pages, which has the subcategory of the brands. So these are the sub pages for the brands.
What is this? The table page? TBL?
TBL pages. So that's the sub pages for the brands.
Okay.
So brands is the bigger one. The TBL pages is the sub pages of that. I'm going to be making a sub pages of that, which will have the individual products on them, is the next step. And then we have categories, which has just the categories listed, and the position and ID invisible. And then we have category pages, which is that sub page of categories. And just like with the brands, I will be making a sub of that sub. But I need to make sure we have the right setup for what you want displayed, and then I will get that coded for you. And then final thing, I have the users, and right now there's me and there's you. And since this is probably not the password you're wanting, I'll just delete yours right now, and we can have you add yourself in once we get it updated. So that's all that's been built. And if you looked at the page from the front end, you saw it earlier, it's going to show the categories, the listings. It'll open with whatever it is that we've entered for that subcategory will show right in here, and it'll still be surrounded by the same bordering. So yeah, so main thing now is I just need to know how you want the product pages themselves to look.
Okay, let's take a